Well, it is that time of the month, ladies and gentlemen, where I am going to be talking about all things wrestling related. Not only this weekend, but also next weekend as well. So look out for a fair amount of wrestling related content in the next couple of weeks. But with all that being said, my name is Daniel Strunk. Welcome to Quick Time Reactions, and welcome to my AEW Full Gear predictions. I'm really excited about this show. Last show, of course, was Wrestle Dream, which was I was actually able to attend in person, which was really fun. But now, be watching from the comfort of my own home, and hopefully there are no problems with the stream. But we'll deal with that when they come about. Maybe not tomorrow. But let us get into talking about these matches now. There are some matches for the Tailgate Brawl. I cannot make any promises that I'm going to be able to see the Tailgate Brawl, but I'm going to try my best. So, first off, we have the Workhorsemen, JD Drake and Anthony Henry, taking on Eddie Kingston and Hook in tag team action. I think this is going to be a really good match between the four of them. But if I had to give the leg up on who's going to win this, I'm probably going to say Eddie Kingston and Hook. Because, they're more prominent on TV. As much as I love the Workhorsemen, I love JD Drake and Anthony Henry. But I don't see them. I don't see them winning this, unfortunately. Next up, we have the CMLL World Trios titles as El Sky Team, which is Mascara Dorada, Mystico, and Neon, take on the Don Callis family, which is Hedricero, Konosuke Takeshita, and Kazuchika Okada. Now, Okada and Takeshita, they've been butting heads recently. They don't necessarily see eye to eye, but they do have this World Trios title match that they got to get through. But, like I said, they do have problems. And I think those problems are going to cost the team the World Trios titles, the CMLL World Trios titles, I should say. And I do think that El Sky team is going to retain those titles on the night. Next up, we have Boom and Doom, which is QT Marshall and Big Boom AJ, taking on Roppongi Vice, Rocky Romero, and Trent. I think this is going to be a really good match. Every single time AJ gets into the ring, I'm always impressed by what he is able to, actually do inside of the ring. Even though, if we're, being really, critical and analytical about it, it's not a lot, but he's still able to, go in there and, do that stuff, and I know he's a former wrestler, but, still, as a guy who, doesn't get in the ring that often, he's respectable, is what I'm going to say. And I think this will be a fun match, but I'm going to go with... I'm going to go with Boom and Doom to win this. Mainly because, it'll be the big, babyface pop. And, kind of put this feud away. And, we'll dust off AJ, the next time that we need him. And then finally, the last match for the Tailgate Brawl is a $200,000 four-way, where the winning team will receive $200,000. We have the Bang Bang Gang, the Outrunners, Big Bill and Brian Keith, and Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. Bowens and Caster reuniting since they split off into single stars with, I believe, Caster was the one doing like the open challenge, and Bowens, of course, kind of retooling, regimmicking himself. So the Acclaimed come back together, but will they be able to coexist? We'll see. I think this will be, the party match of the night. But as to who I think will win it, I'm, coin flip, maybe Big Bill and Brian Keith, and then the Acclaimed, what used to be the Acclaimed. And I'm going to go with the team that used to be known as the Acclaimed. I think they will be able to pull it off, and maybe it will lead to something down the road. Who knows? But I'm going to go with the team that used to be the Acclaimed to win that match. Moving on now to the main card. First up, we have a Fatal 4-Way women's tag match, where the winning team will get to choose the stipulation for their semifinals match in the women's tag title tournament. So we have the Babes of Wrath, Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron, Sisters of Sin, Julia Hart and Sky Blue, the Timeless Love Bombs, which is Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa, and basically the toughest and strongest women on the planet that you do not want to get in the ring with, Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir of the Death Riders. This is probably going to be all out, chaos between all 8 of these women. And if I was to hazard a bet as to who is going to win this, I don't know how the brackets are, because I don't have that off the top of my head. But I'm going to say that it is going to be Bayne and Shafir. And the only reason I say that is because I think whoever they're facing, they're probably going to make it into a hardcore match. And that's just going to be absolute sheer chaos. And that's what... Because I do think that they're going to make it to the finals, but ultimately fall to... My pick, anyway, is either Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale or Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. Now, watch me, say one of those teams, and they're going to be, facing Bayne and Shafir in the tag title tournament. So, watch me be completely wrong about that. But, I do think that Bayne and Shafir will probably win this match. And, like I said, they'll probably end up picking a hardcore match for their, semifinal match. Moving on, we have, let's just stick with the Death Riders here. We have Pac versus Darby Allin. Two of the, I would say, smaller guys on the roster, but, don't take that away from both Pac and Allin. Allin is really, really tough and can take a lot of, hits and stuff. Meanwhile, Pac, he's shredded like Wolverine and, is deceptively strong. as well. So, he's very capable of pulling off some power moves. And I think this may be the sleeper match of the night. We'll just have to wait and see how the rest of the card kind of, shakes out. But I'm looking forward to this. And I'm going to say that Darby's going to get the win on this one. And the reason I say Darby is going to win on this one is because I think it will factor into the other big Death Rider match that is happening on the show, which, let's just go ahead and talk about it now. In a no holds barred match, we have Jon Moxley versus Kyle O'Reilly. Ever since, Moxley's just trying to, get back into the world title picture, and he's not getting there. And, he's gone on this, string with Kyle, where I think, one of their matches was a draw, and the other match was a DQ. In Blood and Guts, I believe Moxley surrendered to Kyle O'Reilly. Like, O'Reilly's had Moxley's number, and, it's kind of showing, like, the dissolution of, Mox as the leader of the Death Riders. And so what I think may happen is it's probably going to take everybody, like I'm talking Claudio, Pac, Garcia, Yuta, possibly Shafir as well. Like, it's going to take everybody in the Death Riders to help Moxley beat O'Reilly. And that, I think, will be more of a cause for, my guess is, Claudio to, like, turn on him at some point, to basically write Mox out of the Death Riders. So I do have Moxley winning this, but it's with a lot of help from the Death Riders. Moving on to something that AEW just loves doing, right? Introducing a new title. We have the Casino Gauntlet match to determine the first AEW National Champion. This belt going to be modeled after the NWA National Championship. Not the current one, but the one that, basically led to what we have as the U.S. title in WWE right now. We know the first two entrants, number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is Bobby Lashley, and number 2 is Shelton Benjamin, which will be very, very interesting. The others that are confirmed for it right now are Ricochet and Speedball. But this is going to be, a really fun match. Hopefully some pretty good surprises in there as well. And typically for battle royals, I usually don't put out a prediction because, you never know who's gonna show up, especially, since it is a casino gauntlet, the Joker, we don't know who that Joker could be. So I'm just gonna leave this one blank, and we're just going to see how this one kind of plays out a little bit. Moving on to another big time money match, this time for $1 million. We have Kenny Omega and Jurassic Express taking on the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander. Like I said, winner of the match gets $1 million. I find it absolutely hysterical that, last month the Bucks fought Jurassic Express for $500,000, lost. So my assumption is that Alexander's going to work over Kenny extensively, target, the area that he had his diverticulitis and stuff like that. Jurassic Express, of course, going to run amok. Young Bucks going to run amok as well. basically another party match. Um, but this one, you could see going either way. Like, you could tell the story about the Bucks, um, slowly but surely, being introduced as maybe new members of the Don Callis family, even though the Don Callis family has, like, way too many members. Um, but you could also go the route of, Bucks just on a bit of a bad losing streak. And, they're just, continuing to be broken. Maybe they can learn humility out of this. So, it's either way is, interesting. But if I were to pick one, I'm going to say the heels win it. Because the Bucks lost the last time. And maybe this time when they win it, they might be a little wiser with their money. Who knows? But I'm going to go with the heels winning that match. And now we're going to end with a string of title matches. Starting off with the TNT Championship, Kylefletcher defending against Mark Briscoe. And if Briscoe loses this match, he is forced to join the Don Callis family. And this is also a no DQ match. So my assumption is there's going to be also some chicanery in this one. But in kind of the inverse of the O'Reilly-Moxley match, I actually have the good guy winning this for two reasons. One, it kind of has like a feel-good end to it, because as much as I think that Mark Briscoe joining the Don Callis family could make for some interesting TV, I also think it is time to push Fletcher up the card, in my opinion. Now, whether that be as a heel or as a babyface, that is, out of, my decision, because it could be either or. But I see Fletcher losing this title, going on to have a really good run in the C2, and maybe riding that momentum into maybe a world title program at some point in the future. I just think it is time for Fletcher to go up the card and into that main event scene. That's just my opinion, anyway. But fact of the matter is, I think Mark Briscoe is going to win the TNT Championship. Moving on to the tag titles, we have Brodito taking on FTR for the tag titles. Both these teams have been putting on really, really good work. Brodito had an amazing tag match with Okada and Takeshita at Wrestle Dream that I absolutely loved. And FTR is one of the best tag teams of all time, especially in the modern era. So this one is really, really hard to call. I think, all these matches towards the tail end are really, really hard to call. But if I was going to pick one, I think it'll be FTR. I'm thinking it'll be FTR, and the only reason I say FTR is because Bandito might still be dealing with, that, arm or shoulder injury that he picked up, I think a couple weeks ago or something. And so, you might want to take the belts off him so that, he can have time to recover, because, my assumption is Bandito and Brody King are going to be guys that you want to put in the C2 to have, really good matches. So at least that's just my thinking of, who's going to be in the C2. But that's who I have winning the tag titles is FTR. Moving on to the women's championship, Krisstatlander defending against mercedesmone, who is just, getting all the belts. But the one belt that she has not gotten yet, the AEW Women's World Title. Now, again, there's multiple ways that you can go with this. You can either finally crown Monet as champ, or you could continue to tell that story of the one championship that she's not able to get is the AEW Women's World Title. And I think this time, they didn't do it last time when she lost to Tony at All in Texas. But I think if you do it now, I think you could start telling the story of the downfall of mercedesmone, where she just starts losing her titles left, right, and center. That could be a very interesting story that they could go with. So I think I'm going to go with Krisstatlander to retain the title. Mainly because I really like the idea of mercedesmone being able to win, all these titles except for the one that she really wants, the AEW Women's World Title. I think that's a really cool story that you could run with. So yeah, that's my pick, Krisstatlander. And then finally, the main event for the AEW World Title inside of a steel cage. Hangman Adam Page defends against Samoa Joe. I was there in person for Joe's heel turn against Page at Wrestle Dream, which was a complete shock. I didn't see that coming, but I'm also really happy that, we get to see them continue this feud. And I think this one's going to be a really, really good match between the two of them. But I do think that Page is going to retain his world title. Granted, I don't know what you have him do after this, especially going into World's End. I don't know what you have doing, at World's End, but I do think that he's going to retain his world title against Samoa Joe. It'd be cool if Joe won it again, but I don't see that happening. So I have Hangman Adam Page to retain the AEW World's title. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my predictions for AEW Full Gear. Now, it may be an interesting time as to when I post my review for AEW Full Gear, because I actually have a very busy day on Sunday. So I don't know if I'll be able to do an immediate reaction after I get done watching the show. But rest assured that a pay-per-view review will be up on the channel. Just maybe not immediately after. So be sure to look out for that on the channel. But in the meantime, guys, be safe out there, and let's have some fun watching Full Gear. I'll catch you guys next time.